thoughts on a guy like Alex Hormozi, for instance?
I think for the most part, I don't know Alex personally. I've worked with some organizations that, we helped grow to a point where they were discussing partnership with acquisition.com. And he seems to be a very high integrity guy. And it is one of his core values. And he does grill the people he works with on those core values. He's super logical. I think he understand, like, that's the cool thing about it too, is it's actually in your best interest to run an ethical
of course
business. Right. Yeah. Like we were just talking about it with a topic I don't want to get into, but the truth is going to come out eventually. Right. And so if you want to sustain and you want to be in it for the long haul, then you have to be doing good business. And so I do think that Alex is so smart that and he seems like to be a high integrity guy as well. So I think he is doing things the right way. The only area where I feel like he maybe does his audience a disservice is the disconnect from faith. Yeah. And disconnect from God. Like a higher purpose. Yeah. He doesn't see that. He's a nihilist, right? Yeah. He doesn't seem to see the value in that yet. And he hasn't reached that point. I think as he continues to ascend in his journey, inevitably he will. I think he's just too logical. But I'm pretty damn logical too. And eventually. But at what point did faith become big in your life? Was that recently, something you grew up on? Mm-mm. So how did you find faith as a logical person? Because I think that's super helpful for people. I asked another logical person a very logical question, and I couldn't tell you what his answer was, but as soon as he answered the question, it was such a profound answer that he gave. I just felt this wave of peace come over me, and I was like, okay, I need to start building my relationship with God. Mm-hmm. The person I'm speaking of is a dear mentor of mine. His name is Ryan Blair. And he's got a crazy story. Is that the altar call? Mm-hmm. Okay. He's got a crazy story where he grew up in the streets of LA, very impoverished, joined a gang, and then found, he was being tried as an adult or something at 16 or 17 for a crime that he committed. And he, was praying about it and was told to write a letter to the judge. And so he wrote a letter to the judge. The judge let him off with a warning, basically, when he shouldn't have. He was just like, this was the best letter I've ever read. And, he had no academic background to have been able to write one like the best letter. And then, shortly thereafter, his mom starts dating somebody who becomes a mentor of his, teaches him business, gets him out of the streets. And then he goes on to become Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, New York Times bestselling author, sold a company for $800 million. And, so I asked him the question. I was like, Ryan, obviously you're a guy who has sought control. I know you, I've worked with you. I know you seek control, right? You want control of your circumstances. You want control of your outcomes, and you're highly ambitious. How do you get around this idea that you're not in control of the outcome of your life? And it's, some egotistical big man in the sky to where if you don't worship him, you're going to burn in hell for eternity. How does that resonate? That's a great way to phrase the question. And again, no real recollection of what his answer was, but it hit. And at that moment, I had really no doubt that, that I needed to start prioritizing that relationship. And then that journey in of itself has been, it's just one layer of confirmation after the next. Right. And so it's the more obedient that I am, the better my life gets, the more impact I'm able to have. And then as soon as I step out, I feel like God's got me on a pretty short leash. It's my hand gets slapped away and things correct back very quickly. If I start trying to, flaunt what I'm doing for egotistical purposes, or if I start taking actions in ego, shit doesn't work. Yep. That's awesome, bro. Yeah, that's my problem with Hormozi too, is there's something missing. A big piece of it is missing. But I feel like it's really hard for entrepreneurs to give up control. Yep. That's where the biggest disconnect happens, I think. I guess as a logical, practical person, what does that look like for you in a daily setting? Giving up control. I mean, if you listen to Alex, he talks about entrepreneurship as he doesn't seem to fully enjoy it, right? Yeah. He's doing it because he doesn't see a better alternative, which I agree with, right? But he's it's stress, you're always stressed, you're gonna suffer and all these things. And I believe that to an extent, in order to grow, you need to be put under pressure, right? And so you're signing up for a certain degree of suffering because you're like going to put yourself to the test every single day.
Mm-hmm.
You're not like every single day you're trying to get outside of your comfort zone, which is uncomfortable. And that leads to growth.
Yeah.
In being able to kind of just surrender to God of like, hey, listen, I have so much faith that as long as I don't need to see the end outcome. I don't need to be able to control things. I just need to be able to take that next right step and trust that he's going to illuminate the rest, like the next step after that. And, also not, it's kind of like giving up responsibility. It's like, sometimes when, you're in tough situations where, I don't know, maybe payroll's in question or, that next layer of growth is in question and you're starting to feel stressed and feel pressure, like realizing that a lot of that comes from ego.
Yep.
A lot of that comes from, you thinking that if you don't accomplish X, Y, or Z, if you're not able to do a certain thing, that then you aren't the person that you thought you were. And as long as like the core of who you believe you are is a child of God and like is in service to the Most High and like just trying to glorify him in all that you do, then, and knowing that like you're co-creating, you're not creating, you're co-creating with him.
Yep.
And it's like kind of his responsibility to deliver that next, that next miracle or that next, clue or piece of information kind of. And, it's just your responsibility to be obedient and take action when it's, when it's presented.
Yeah.
There's just a sense of peace and a sense of, I guess peace is the best way to describe it. Like,
I think you guys actually think more similar than I thought when you started on this, you and Hormozi, because you're both kind of seeking that peace because so much responsibility comes with being an entrepreneur that like it can just become a burden when things get to a certain size. But you're able to let go to be like, it's in God's hand, right? Like that's ultimately what matters. He's able to let go because his view is just like, fuck
Nothing
it.
matters.
Nobody's going to remember
nothing
us
matters.
nothing matters. So it's actually like a very similar destination that you get to. It's just in like completely different ways.
Right. And so like when I watch some of the stuff that he talks about, I'm like, okay, you are a believer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just
Like,
don't know it
denying
yet. Yeah. You're just
Yeah.
articulating it in a different way. So that was, well put for sure.
It's very interesting. The other thing I disagree with him is how communities are the easiest way to get to like your first 10K a month. Absolutely.
There's an incentive for him to
No,
be
I know,
saying
but
that.
I'm saying that's the first time like
That's-
where his incentive has kind of gotten in the way of like, for a beginner, that is
Him
a
telling
very
the
tough
truth.
business model to
Yeah.
start with.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is, that's an objective false claim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's got the incentive now that he's
If
an
you
investor in
have
school.
a
Strong
you know,
personal brand.
if you've got 100,000 followers, then sure, you
Yeah.
can sell everyone a $50 subscription and make your first 10K.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
Yeah.
like you need to go develop enough expertise to be able to sell your knowledge at a recurring revenue rate.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes people are like, because in the beginning with Client Ascension, we'd have almost exclusively lead gen agencies. There were so many of them. And people would ask us like, are you not worried that they're just going to start another Client Ascension? I'm like, no, not at all. Like, good luck. If you don't have the personal brand to start, like the
Some
community
have
just won't
tried.
get off the ground.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this short clip, check out the full interview here. And if you want to see more clips from this episode, check it out right here.